So here we are in the virtual environment, and you can see that we have the space station here. And the reason I wanted to talk about the virtual environment is because I feel like this could truly be the start of the metaverse. Now, before we actually talk more about the virtual environment, I want to show you how to change it. So in order to change our virtual environment, you're going to see that we have this clock here, and it's got our battery meter and our Wi-Fi connection here as well, and we're going to click on that, and then you're going to see this opens up a whole new window here, and we've got settings in the top right hand corner of the window. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to look at the menu on the left side of this new window, and we're going to have virtual environment. We're going to tap on that, and then all our virtual environments will populate. You may have to download some of these if you haven't already. But by default, you do have a few you could choose from. So we're going to just go through maybe one or two of them. So we're switching now to the Desert Terrace. And you can see this changes the virtual environment to the Desert Terrace. We've got the Quest Dome. We're going to tap on that. And this is taking a little bit longer. And it may be downloading too. That could be why it's taking a little bit longer. But we are almost there. And this is good to demonstrate too, so you can see how long these take. So yes, this had to download. And now I'm going to click apply. So we've applied the Quest Dome. And this looks very modern, futuristic. My other favorite ones besides the Quest Dome, if you're looking for something more modern, futuristic, we've got the Cyber City, so we can apply that. And you can look around. Again, we've got a very modern, futuristic appearance. And then of course the space station, that's what I use. So for me, I choose between the Cyber City and the space station. Now, of course, once you've selected your virtual environment, you've got that O button on the right joystick. That's the Oculus button. And we can press that. And that's going to close all the menus. So now we can actually get up. We can walk around. Now, I do have this here, so it's not showing up in my virtual environment. So I could literally trip over this. Even though there is supposed to be like a safety measure that kind of indicates this is here. But that's not really happening right now. But we do have our boundary. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is to talk about the metaverse. Now, I made a first video where we were in Horizon Worlds, and I just wanted to kind of show what that was like. And it was interesting to see the comments. There were a lot of good comments, very supportive comments, and then there were negative comments. And the way I look at the subject, I think both sides have legitimate points. So one of the most noticeable things I've noticed from the comments was on the more negative side, but more reasonable as well, is that the world looks fake. And then on the other side, you know, a lot of people were impressed with what you could do, the chatting, just the interacting with people. So I think we might have the idea of the metaverse wrong. I think if it's going to be realistic, we actually need to flip it around. So the metaverse that I showed you in that first video, it looked very cartoony, it didn't look realistic. And what we need to do is we need to actually make the metaverse more like this. So when you're in this, you can walk around. It actually looks real to an extent. It looks a lot more realistic. If you could actually invite people, they could all be sitting around, you could be talking. You would want more realistic looking avatars. You would actually want to be able to interact with things. Now, the problem with this being the way it is, I got to find my table here really quick because I'm walking around. I don't necessarily know where the camera is anymore. I believe it's over here. The problem with this is we have this virtual boundary though. So, and what that means is I have my whole living room mapped out, so I can't go over there. You know, we've got a wall there. I can't go over there. It's not going to happen. So we're very limited with what we can do within the space, and that's going to be a huge downside. But again, if we could actually have experiences in this virtual environment, this would be a nice reality to actually participate in. Because for me, maybe I don't want an experience where I'm on Earth. Maybe I want to know what it's like to be on a space station and make it as realistic as possible. And I think that's where the virtual environments get it right. So again, we're going to open our menu here, and we are going to go to our settings. We're going to switch the virtual environment, and I'm going to go to the Cyber City. And again, this is what I would want my apartment to look like. This is very modern, futuristic. Now, when we talk about being able to move around in this area, what's disappointing here and what we really need for Metaverse to actually work is, you can see we've got some stairs over there. I can't go to those stairs. I can't walk up them. I don't even know if there was a room designed. I mean, I can kind of duck and see that they still go up, but is there actually something up there, or was it just never designed because, the designer figured no one's going to be able to go up there anyways? There's a door here. If I could exit that door, I could go into the hallway. And maybe in that hallway, we would have other apartments, and other people in the metaverse would live in those apartments, and I could ring their doorbell, and they can answer the door. Simple things like an intercom. Is this an intercom right here? I would love to go to the intercom if someone were to ring the doorbell, that kind of thing. Maybe just interact with things. What's in the fridge? Can I go up here? Can I watch this television? Right? Can I turn this fan on or off? These are the things that I think would make the metaverse realistic. And instead of having it start with Horizon Worlds, which is a nice experience, but it's just not very realistic, because of the form of animations it has. We really need to start with what we've already had, which is a beautiful base ground, these virtual environments. So I'm going to actually jump to another virtual environment here, the Quest Dome. We'll go back to this. This one's interesting for similar reasons. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but turning around here, I don't see a door. Like, how do you get out of this? Right? So this is the problem with this one. We didn't think of putting a door here. Maybe it's hidden behind the bookshelf. Maybe it's a secret agent door. But anyways, it would just be nice to be able to just walk to the window and see how high this is off the ground. We've got this beautiful aurora borealis here. Maybe if we can go out there, maybe there's a path where we can hike along and we can visit other people. That would be interesting. So these are just some of the problems. We've just got some basic problems here, and these shouldn't really be hard to solve. But it really needs to start here. This is beautiful groundwork. Now, one of the things we would need to do to make this look a little more realistic, and before we do that, I'm actually we're gonna try a different virtual environment here. Just to kind of switch it up. So we're gonna install the classic home, and while that's installing, I'll just start talking about the next thing. So the next thing is, we want to be able to actually interact with things. So again, in that Cyber City, we had the stairs. We would want to be able to walk up the stairs. We'd want that to feel real. Now, there is maybe a few different ways we could accomplish that. Maybe we can't actually have real stairs. So maybe instead of having stairs in all these worlds, it would just be an incline, not very steep. But it would just be kind of smooth, so that as you're walking, you feel like you're actually walking up it. And then there is needing to interact with objects. So we've got this virtual environment. It's called Classic Home, and this is really nice. This looks reasonably real. You know, if you had to hang out here for a few hours, you might accept it fairly quickly. But we've got nice objects here. This pillow actually looks real. It actually looks really real. What we would want is haptic feedback. Now, again, the issue here is that because of my boundary, I can't really interact with the pillow because I might hit something. And I'm actually probably way out of the camera. So I'm gonna come back into the camera. We've got another pillow over here though, but we've got a wall here. And so really the pillow is in the wall. These are the limitations. But if we had haptic feedback and say I could touch that pillow, I could actually squeeze the pillow and it would feel like maybe I'm squeezing a real pillow. Now, these things are actually being worked on, which is exciting. But things like that, we would want to be able to interact with them. Say there's a book here. There is a book right there. I would like to be able to pick up the book and start reading it. You know, maybe we could sit down on a pillow and we could read a book. Now, this is where I think the next thing comes into mind too. The metaverse, I don't think it's only going to be virtual reality. It's going to have to be a combination of virtual reality and augmented reality, meaning a reality laid over your actual reality. Case in point, you know, we got these pillows. If I were to sit on them, I don't know if there's anything here, but I would fall on the floor. So what we would need is an actual object that I actually have in real life, and then I can sit on it, but it would be like sitting on these pillows. So we're going to need a combination of augmented reality and virtual reality to complete this experiment, to complete this experience. And this is all how to make it feel realistic. Now, there's many other things to think about as well to make this as realistic as possible. And we would have to figure all those things out. There's so much to cover. I couldn't cover it in this video. But the idea is if it gets to the point where it's ultimately very realistic that you feel immersed in it, you would also need some kind of reminder to remind you that this isn't real. Right? If it gets to a point where it's extremely realistic, where you're interacting with things, and you feel like you're actually here, you would need some kind of sign, right? Maybe it's the black cat walking across the floor, or maybe it's some weird illusion that appears that just can't be real. You know, they've done this in movies, Inception, The Matrix. You need codes, little code phrases, code objects, animations, whatever, to remind you that this isn't real. But again, it's okay if we do have a world inside this metaverse where it would be animated. And a perfect example is a game that they offer on here. And it is Super Hot. Now, I actually do have this game installed, Super Hot VR. So we're going to open it. And this is how I feel like you would jump from one world to another world in the metaverse. Because in the metaverse, you want a realistic world, but you also want an arcade world. You want to be able to actually go to the arcade in the metaverse. That's just what you would want, because you're interacting with experiences. So say we would go to a room, and this would be a room that we would go to. This is kind of getting a little more like what we want the metaverse to be, because we have objects, you know, we could interact with. We've got these floppy disks, right? And they have things on them. They're actually like programs. And to me, this is like the closest recreation of maybe the Matrix. It's got a lot of Matrix inspiration, but we can't interact with everything. but we can interact with some things. So again, we could take a floppy here, and these are like programs you would see in the Matrix. We can grab 2 at a time. You could throw it if you didn't like it, you could throw it. But we would pick a program. We would have an actual computer here, and we would insert our program into the computer. Seems simple enough, but it wouldn't just jump into the experience. Here we would have, please put on your headset. So we're in a metaverse, and we're entering another metaverse. A metaverse in a metaverse. Talk about Inception, right? How deep does it go? It could go pretty deep. I think that would actually be a fun program, like trying to remember how deep you really went. You know? And then you could just jump in, right? You could just jump in. You could start playing. And I mean, that would be it. You know? But there's like potential for other things in the metaverse. So the idea of having a metaverse, you know, you can obviously explore, you can communicate, you can play games, which is like exploring, but you also have your fitness. The Oculus Quest, or the Meta Quest as they call it now, this is an exercise machine too. So we have our apps that we can go into that are exercise apps. We've got React, we've got Supernatural. Let's go ahead and open Supernatural. I actually made a video on this. I actually did post it. The problem with sharing content from the MetaQuest is a lot of these apps have music, and if you try to post them to social media, you get banned. But here we are, and again, this is a perfect example of the metaverse. This is pretty much realistic. It's happening. It's here. You know, this is exercise class, but we're in a different place. So what we might want to experience here, and I don't know how this would happen, temperature. How do you experience temperature? How do we make this feel real? The texture of the grass, maybe the rocks. Is that something that we just can't do? We just shouldn't try? Or is it something that you think is going to be possible? You know, so let's see here. We're gonna actually mute the music so that I can post this video. And we're just going to pick something here. We're going to pick something low intensity. Hopefully the music doesn't play. And then we can just demonstrate.
Hello, my Supernatural champion. I am Coach Mark, and I couldn't be more excited to knock out some boxing basics with you. We're going to start from the very beginning, the fundamentals of Supernatural boxing that are going to allow us to build and challenge our bodies in a brand new and...
So, I mean, just, again, teleportation. Looks very beautiful. We're here in this place. I don't know what this place is. But I mean, if I could just walk away from this workout, say, you know, this isn't for me, you know, I love you, Supernatural team, but you know, I want to take a hike, you know, I want to go up there, right? How do we do that? But jumping back to an exercise class, here we are. We don't have to go to a gym. We don't have to meet this specific person at their specific time. You know, but if we wanted to have other people here too, that would be cool, right? We have other people floating on their boards next to us. And you know, while we're doing our thing, we could like look, you know, see how they're doing, compare scores, stats. So we're going to skip the warm-up. We just kind of want to just demonstrate this a little bit, right? Demonstrate exercise class. And again, music is muted, so
here we go, champion.
Not going to be as exciting, but we've got some blocking,
I want you to keep your hands right there, right up in front of your face.
You know, you can pivot, block.
These circle targets
you can really get into
punches,
it.
Left side and right side. Squat it down, duck under those bars. Now here come those uppercuts, duck.
So I'm gonna leave that at that. But I mean, this is just how quickly everything can change. You can move from one place to another really quick. Now, one of the things I did want to cover, there was a comment in that the start of the Metaverse video that I made. If there were other experiences that were similar to Horizon Worlds, and yes, there are. So what we have here, you've got Rec Room, and that's very similar. And then we also have Alt Space VR. Now, again, these are experiences that I definitely feel should be in the metaverse, but they're not going to be realistic experiences. You can see we've got animation here, we've got animation here, and Horizon Worlds, again, it's animated. These are just sandboxes. They're places that you would go to play, and that's why they should be here in the metaverse. Because it's really just a game. So, but besides these, you've got other experiences too, where they're more passive. So you've got Netflix VR, you've got YouTube VR. You can just kind of sit and watch things happen. But we'll jump into Rec Room just to give you an idea here. And as you can see, this video ends up being a pretty long video without even trying. There's already so much we can do. Just something to keep in mind. MetaQuest, the Metaverse, it's really in its infancy. But here I am. I think this is definitely a little bit more dumbed down. It's definitely more cheesy. So we're just gonna go ahead and just jump into it. We're not gonna worry too much here. But some things, I mean, my height's pretty spot on. 5 feet 10 inches. It uses my arm span. Okay. And I actually did that again just to verify. It looks good. I'm actually 5'11", so that's pretty close. That's actually very impressive. I think when they throw you in Rec Room, if it's your first time, you don't really interact with people immediately. There might be a tutorial. But we're just gonna go with it, see what happens. Just like in the Metaverse video, none of this is scripted. A lot of my videos I do actually script because they're very detailed unboxings or tutorials, and you really need a game plan. I even thought about it with this one, but I didn't want it to not feel natural. If something goes wrong, I actually wanted that to happen. So we've got the delays in this video. We can definitely see how long things take. If it doesn't work right, you're going to see it not work right, because that's the important thing. If you don't have a Meta Quest, or an Oculus Quest, if you still call it that, you want to see how it doesn't work. And speaking of how it doesn't work, I have no idea where we're at. So I'm gonna try to jump into one of the hot rooms. Join a public room. There might be people screaming. There might be some profanity. If it even works. But I have no idea what's going on here. Play. View featured room. Let's try that. Join public room. So I don't really play around with this too much. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. But I don't remember this looking like this. So let's exit out of this. And we're gonna try to go to something else. So we're going to try alt space. And again, perfect example, something not working right. Maybe it's operator error. I have no idea. But with this stuff, you kind of have to have the real expectation that it's not always going to work right. The is a very impressive virtual reality headset in that it does stand alone. It's not hooked up to a computer or anything. So alt space VR. I actually didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this. So we are just going to quit this too. But there are these other different environments that are like Horizon Worlds that you could try out. I don't really know if there's anything else that I could really I'm really interested in demonstrating. So I think that's pretty much it. So I just want to thank everyone for stopping by, watching the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this and found it useful or interesting, make sure you leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, as always, drop those down below. I love reading the comments. Some of them, it's got two different arguments here. You've got some that are they seem more negative, but they've got good points, and you've got more supportive ones. They've got good points. There's a lot of things going on, and I don't think one side is right or wrong. I think everyone's got interesting points, and I think we have to look at both sides if we're really going to improve this. So I encourage lots of conversation. There is another thing I wanted to add in here before we wrap up, and I don't really know too much about this stuff. NFTs and cryptocurrencies. For me, I never really understood it until I started associating it with virtual reality. So for example, you might buy a virtual painting. I personally would never do this, but if you wanted to, you could buy a virtual painting in your virtual house, and you could put it on the wall over there. It just sounds insane to pay like $300,000 for something like that. But I mean, if you wanted to do that, you could do that, and no one else in the virtual reality could have that specific painting. Like you would know it's real because you could just go up to it, and it would have some kind of certification, some virtual reality certification, like this is the legitimate. That would start to make more sense. Or Nike, supposedly they sold virtual sneakers. You could have virtual sneakers. When they actually start incorporating legs in virtual reality, you can see I don't have any legs, but you could buy those virtual sneakers. Again, I don't know that it's something I would do, but if you wanted those sneakers that no one else is wearing in virtual, or maybe a lot less people are wearing, it's very uncommon, you could buy those Nikes or whatever, you could wear them. That's where it seems a little bit more practical. I don't know how anybody feels about that. Me, I guess if they made this all so real that you would forget that it was real, maybe I would do it, but I just don't think we're there yet. So continuing on, you could support the content by visiting the Amazon storefront. Anything you purchase off of there does support the content. You can also support the content by sharing this video with someone who might enjoy it or find it useful. And the last way you can support the content is just by clicking the subscribe or follow button. Now, liking and subscribing are important. Those are your ways to vote on whether you like the video or the podcast. Liking and subscribing are also important for new viewers and listeners. If new viewers and listeners see likes and subscribers, they're going to think that the content is helpful, worth watching and listening to. So that is pretty much it. And until next time, Leon, check in out.